Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 7 p.m. Mr. Withers, would you kindly do a roll call attendance?
Steve, you're muted.
Mr. Blair.
Here.
Ms. DeSimone.
Here.
Mr. Conti.
Here, present.
Mr. Waterman.
Here.
Vice President Jackson.
Here.
Mr. Delissio.
Present.
Mr. Kobus.
Here.
Ms. Dolan.
Here.
Ms. Reynolds.
Here.
Ms. Holmes.
Present.
And President Cooper.
Here.
11, all councils are present.
Thank you. Would you kindly read the special meeting notice?
Certainly, March 4th, 2021. 2 members of the Honorable Municipal Council from Paul Heroux, Mayor. Municipal councilors, by authority of Article 3, Section 3-5B of the Attleboro Home Rule Charter, I hereby call a special meeting of the Municipal Council as follows. Date, Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. Time, 7 p.m. Place, remote link. Purpose, to present the Reimagine Streets Grant through Massachusetts Department of Transportation under the Shared Winter Streets and Spaces Program in any other matter that may legally come before your honorable body. Sincerely, Paul Heroux, Mayor.
Thank you. Would you go on to the reading of the mayor's communication?
I will. March 9th, 2021. Dear Municipal Councilors, I respectfully submit a communication from Economic Development Director Catherine Furyk regarding the receipt of the Reimagine Streets Grant through Massachusetts Department of Transportation under the Shared Winter Streets and Spaces Program in the amount of approximately $122,149.50. The grant funds will be used to improve the alleyways between Bank Street and Academy Street, including the larger alley running between the Sanford Street Municipal Garage and the smaller alley between the Bates Building and the Ryan and Sons Gob Shop. This is one part of a larger strategy to revitalize the downtown area. 1, we need to improve the buildings and create new livable units to create a supply of customers. 2, we need to support the creation of new businesses. And 3, we need to make the downtown area have an experience that will draw people to. This project is about creating the space that performing arts and crafts, small vendors, and food trucks can set up to offer another reason to come to the downtown area. Along with this grant, the city received the professional design services on this project from Tool Design LLC, funded through the Bar Foundation. The grant requires no city matching funds. The project must be fully implemented by Monday, May 31st, 2021. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body approve expending such funds and any future grant amendments. Additionally, accept the design portion of the project. Moreover, I request the approval to expend these funds by March 16th, 2021, in order to spend the funds prior to the project deadline. Copies in your packets.
Thank you. Capital Improvements and City Development Committee, please.
And sincerely, Paul Heroux, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Conti is going to call for a committee meeting for next week to discuss this matter.
6:45.
6:45, so be on the lookout.
Okay.
Thank you. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any questions or comments?
No.
Can I just, before we move to adjourn, can I mention a couple of questions for Councilor Conti regarding this motion?
I just seconded it, so I don't think you
Okay.
Yes,
Well-
thank you.
So he can because the motion's in order, but are you and Council Conti on the same committee?
We're not, so I could just forward him. I wanted to give him a couple questions ahead of time, so because I know we'll want to move quickly on it. So I'll just email them to him.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And just include Virginia on that so she can share the response with the rest of the council.
Sure thing.
Any additional questions or comments? Seeing none, a roll call vote will begin with Councilor Holmes.
Ms. Holmes,
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds,
Yes.
Ms. Dolan,
Yes.
Mr. Kobus,
Yes.
Mr. Delissio,
Yes.
Vice President Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Waterman,
Yes.
Mr. Conti,
Yes.
Ms. DeSimone,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
President Cooper.
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are adjourned at 7:05, and I believe Councilor Conti is first up this evening.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good
Thank you,
night.
Steve. Thank you. Have a
Good
good
night,
night.
Steve. Thank you.
Hey, Steve.
So I'd like to call the Capital Improvements and City Development Committee to order at 7:05. Sitting on this committee are Councilors Dolan and Waterman. Tonight, we don't have any business to bring forth to the council, but we do have three guests. Derek Corsi will be up first, talking about the capital improvement projects for the Parks and Recreation, Parks and Forestry, followed by Dennis Walsh, who will be speaking about 5 projects for the Recreation Department, followed by Mark Furtado, who will be addressing the urgent projects in the school system capital improvement plan. So Jim, if Derek is by, there I see him online. He's muted. And thank you, Derek, for unmuting. Derek, you have 2 projects that are in the urgent list for the capital improvement plan this year, but we also want to talk about the fire alarms at the zoo just because you happen to be here.
Yep.
So why don't we start with that, the fire alarms at the zoo, and give us an overview of what's going on there.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, wait. Councilor Jackson, do you have a question?
Excuse me, Council Conti, I just want to remind everybody, his business is on page 48.
Yes, thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
for that. Go ahead, Derek. Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. Okay, so the fire alarms at the zoo, it was brought to our attention earlier this year that 2 of the buildings at the zoo complex have non-functioning alarm systems. So we investigated what the issue was. Turns out there was a break in the lines that feeds those 2 buildings. So in order to get this whole thing repaired, request for quotes was put out, and we're undergoing those right now. But it is something that needs to be repaired, not only for the safety of the animals, the patrons. It is also key for our AZA recertification, which is in 2022, so next year.
So I forgot whose committee that is in, but does anyone have any questions? Jay, do you have questions?
No questions, but thank you for the courtesy here, Councilor Chairman Conti. I appreciate that. Derek, thanks for coming down. I just felt it was important when we're talking about the public safety that we had this discussion. So thank you. And we just wanted to be cognizant of your time tonight.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it. And just a heads up that this is the first communication of a 2-part process. I'm also sending a communication to the mayor about improvements to the security system at the zoo. I don't know if everyone's aware, but we've had multiple break-ins to the zoo this past year. So we need to rectify that issue in some way in order to satisfy AZA requirements. The AZA board is aware of the break-ins, and we have some solutions, but we're going to bring that to council within the next couple of weeks. So that's just a heads up that that's going to be coming your way.
Excellent.
Thank you. So Derek, we'll move on to the Mobile chipper. We've been talking about this so long, I thought we had bought it. This is a big heavy duty chipper that requires a big heavy duty truck to pull it around, correct?
Correct. And we now have the big heavy duty truck thanks to the Capital Improvements Committee. We'd like to thank you again for approving that. And we did receive it this month, and it will be put into service very shortly, as soon as everyone's licensed.
So the old chipper that you used to have is still in service?
Yes.
Limping along?
Yes, it's still in service. Every once in a while we have a hiccup with it, but we either fix it ourselves or we bring it somewhere to be repaired.
You're planning on retaining it after you get the Mobile chipper?
Yes, that's our plan. Our plan is to keep it as a backup. I know the DPW has a chipper. I think the best course of action, their chipper is very old and very dangerous. So the best course of action would be to retain the chipper we have, remove the chipper that DPW has as a backup, and then we would have 2 really safe and really functional chippers for the city.
So this $100,000 chipper, $99,000 chipper, is that a 4-inch or a 6-inch chipper? Does this thing do something special?
Oh, it's a 18-inch.
Holy mackerel, that could do telephone poles.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody have questions on the Mobile chipper? Let's move on then to the repair fencing and walkway at Wolfenden Fountain.
Yep. So the Wolfenden Fountain surrounded by a wrought iron fence, which over the years has rusted away, it's rotting away. We've done some minor repairs to that just to keep it upright, but the fence itself is not going to last much longer, and it's posing a hazard to the public if it remains. Between the rust and the pieces falling off, and if someone gets gouged by one of the pieces, it could be an issue. And surrounding the fountain itself, there's also a walkway that it's an older concrete walkway that would need some resurfacing. There's a lot of cracks that we've done some light repairs on. There's areas that are lifting. So, the whole area itself needs a little bit of rehab to get it up to the standards we expect.
So I remember reworking the pump and the spray system several years ago to get that function. Is that still working?
That is still working. We actually utilized a trust fund this year. We had a leak develop, so the water wasn't recycling through. The drain pipe itself that runs to the base of the fountain had a crack in it. It was losing water, but we had that repaired this summer, and we should be good to go this spring once we fire it up. So that was repaired through our trust fund.
Excellent. Does anyone have questions for Derek on the Wolfenden Fountain? Councilor Cooper.
I do. So, hi, Derek. Thank you for joining tonight. So I'm just struggling a little bit with $100,000 to repair the fencing and the fountain, only because before your time, but not before mine, serving the city, all of the railings at the MBTA station were taken down. Temporary ones were put up.
Yeah.
And I believe that students at the high school or Tri-County or somewhere had something to do with the repair of those historic looking rails when that area was done. Have you explored something like that for this to try to minimize some of the costs? Because $100,000 seems steep to me.
Yeah, we have the problem with the railings themselves they're so rusted that it's almost impossible to repair the correct way without putting a substantial amount of time in it, and then there's no guarantee that it's going to last. I think switching them out to something that's not going to rust, like an aluminum railing, would be the smarter way to go. It's surrounded by water, so doing something that's not going to rust would help with the longevity of the project. But these are, if this was attacked maybe 10 years ago, we could go that route. We could sandblast them. We could paint them with a rust abatement and then paint them with a nice, powder coat. But right now they're just so far gone, we can't do that.
So there's no other option, because I can tell you those railings at the MBTA were pretty far gone. I think they were there since, like Ben Franklin or somebody famous rode into town on the train. Really, I'm not making it up, but that's the reality. They took them down; they were junk. And it was either Tri-County or the high school. I can't remember who, but one of them fixed. A lot of it needed to be replaced too.
Yeah.
And they apply salt liberally to the steps over there, so they were pretty rotted out at the base.
Yeah. The other option that we could explore, and it's something that I've kind of thought about over time, is the zoo has a fence surrounding the pond where the lemurs are, and they're in the process of getting that replaced because it's a safety issue. It's a similar type of fence that could be utilized in that area. So that's one thing I did think about, but it's something that would really have to be retrofitted. We have to bring some sort of welder or fabricator in to make it work, but it is an option that we could go forward with.
We got a lot of talent in the city that I think we should utilize to fix this project to minimize the expense. I'm struggling with $100,000 to fix that because it looks nice. Now's probably not the time, unless we can think of some way to minimize the cost or have an impact to the cost.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all about saving the taxpayers' money. So I'm willing to explore every option. This improvement here was just a baseline to replace what we have, brand new 100%. But obviously we can make changes to accommodate that and get the same result.
I think we would all appreciate that.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't get repaired, then you need to rope it off with yellow tape and ban people from approaching the Wolfenden Fountain, and that's going to be a complete eyesore on County Street.
Richard, it was empty for years. Didn't
Yeah.
run for years and years and years.
Empty, but not unsafe. Now it's unsafe.
Well, we
Yeah.
could,
I
we could
mean-
go back and forth on that if you wanted to, but nevertheless, it sat empty for years.
And if it did get to that point, maybe we could just remove the fence altogether and just have it an open fountain. There's plenty of open fountains around that don't have fencing around it. I know originally, I did some research originally when it was there, it did not have a fence.
Mhm.
So that's always something we could look into too, where we just remove the fence. We do some nice pavers surrounding it because that walkway is an issue. And then it's a fairly inexpensive fix and it looks good. So that's also another option.
I like the considering the options.
Just to have a plan B.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the fountain? Any other questions for Derek? Seeing none, thank you, Derek, for attending.
Thanks
If we
for
have
having
further
me.
questions, I'll get in touch with you.
All right, sounds good. Nice to see everyone. Thanks for
Nice to
having
see
me.
you too.
Thanks, Derek.
So
See you.
next up, Jim Jones, if you'd let in Dennis Walls. And Dennis was talking about being able to share some photos on his screen. I'm not sure that we'll be able to do that tonight, but perhaps we can.
You should be all set to do that.
Good. Good evening, Dennis.
Good evening. How are you?
Wonderful. Nice to see you.
You as well.
So, Dennis, you have 6 items in your Recreation Department urgent list totaling $164,000. And I asked you about the priorities, and you said the order that I had them in was the priority that you had, but that they were all urgent. So why don't we start with the Briggs Pool zero entry, and give us a little overview of what's going on there.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank Gary Rajan for putting them in the order that I requested, because I did put them in the book in the order of priority. I do have 6 projects that are listed as urgent. And it's important to note that 5 of them are concrete or asphalt projects. So if you think about the ball fields and the fencing, et cetera, we're in pretty good shape, but we haven't been able to get to some of the concrete and the asphalt projects, the basketball courts, things of that nature. And also the Briggs Pool zero entry, which we've cleaned, we've taken care of once before, but unfortunately it's back to haunt us again. I see if I can share the picture here.
Richard, this is page 86 in the book.
Yeah, I was trying to
Thank
say
you for that.
I was so in trying to say that.
Why it's not sharing here? It seems to be sharing.
Yeah, we can see a desktop.
Okay, well then let's go here to the asphalt. I can't see what you can see now. That's the problem.
Well, I see Briggs zero. I see 4 photographs. Yep.
There you go. Let's see if we can get this one. A new share.
There it is. Big as life. Good for you.
Okay, so here's the zero entry, which that's for handicapped accessibility, et cetera. So it's just a sloped area instead of a stairway to get into a pool. And you can see this is a PebbleTech material on top of concrete. And I'll try to zoom in there for you a little bit. You can see this is where the railings normally go as well. You can see here in this area where what's happened is typical of products like this. You get a crack, the water gets in the winter, it freezes, expands, and then has an area where it just becomes air in there and it's unsafe. And as you can see, starting last year, it started to crack. We made it through the summer last year, but there's a number of areas in the pool that are like this. This is just the worst area. We would not be able to open the pool this summer without this being fixed, obviously. I've discussed this with Mayor Haru. He's on board to send something down to the council as soon as I get a final quote in, which I'm supposed to get tomorrow. I've been meeting with a mason and also like a material specialist. We've decided, or I've decided, not to put this PebbleTech back on top because that seems to be the issue. So we're gonna put, it's probably gonna be just concrete with some other material on top, some type of rubberized material or something, so that folks get a little bit of a grip when they're walking in the pool. The price in the capital projects book is 25,000, because I was just estimating last fall, and our initial discussions lead me to believe it's gonna be closer to 20,000, maybe a little less than that.
Does anyone have any questions for Dennis on the zero entry pool?
Beverly, how do you get this to close up?
Get your
I
picture
can hear you,
contact
Peter.
there.
Do you have a question?
No, he's yelling at the dog.
Okay.
That's the Pebble Tech material here.
Yeah, and I do.
Well, it's good that you're replacing it. I think it doesn't look like it was designed for New England weather. Councilor
That's
Jackson,
correct.
you have a question?
Thank you, Council Conti. Oh, Director Walsh.
Yes.
Yes, I like the idea that you're switching over to concrete because it is more stabilized, I think. I know they try all these new things with pools and kind of crumbles and gets a little sandy and all that stuff, and it just doesn't up to like what concrete can hold up to, especially because you use chlorine in your pools, correct?
Yeah, the biggest issue with these though is as Councilor Conti just said, is that in New England, when you get a crack and water gets in there, and this would be great down if you go down south, down to Florida, et cetera. It's beautiful. It lasts a lot longer down there because it doesn't freeze and,
Right,
and cause an issue that way.
right. Thanks.
Councilor Waterman, you have the floor.
Thank you. Dennis, thanks for coming with us.
Well, I should thank Councilor Waterman, who all my urgency came over last week, and we went to all the sites to look at all the different projects that I have. So he's acutely aware of what the situations are on each of these.
Well, I was acutely impressed by the fact that it was very spongy in that area. And apparently it's hollow inside, and it did not feel at all safe to me. So I agree with you entirely on total replacement. So thank
Anyone else have a question on the zero entry? Then Dennis, let's move on to the lower handicap ramp at Bartek.
Okay, so I'll put a picture up of the ramp here. I can't see what you can see. Can you see that?
Well, I can see the 5 photographs of the Bartek ramp,
Okay, let me.
but I think you need to double click on ramp number 1 again so it'll come up. There it is. We got it. Yep.
Okay, so this is the ramp which goes into the lower portion of the Bartek Center, which many people call the Armory. As you can see, this handicap ramp has a number of issues. I have a number of pictures, but you don't want to see them all. But you can see here, you're certainly going to have trouble getting a wheelchair past this section here. And you can see where the employees here in the rec department, the maintenance staff, have tried to fill these holes in year after year after year. And it just, it's at the point now we really can't do that anymore. Let me get a new shear just so you can see the next section. Get down here to the corner.
Is there a drain in there, Dennis, where the water can run out?
There, yeah, in fact, I'll go to that one. That's the last one. Number 5. Nope, that's not it. That's number 2. But so that's the next section. And let me go to a new shear. That's not letting me do it.
So Dennis, is it you think the same thinking that water's getting underneath the concrete, lifting it and cracking it?
Yeah, it is. But, the water doesn't fill up all the way up to the top of the ramp, of course. It's just, this ramp, I don't know when it was last, put in, but I've been here for 16 years and it's been an issue since I've been here. The good news on this one is I thought we would have to totally replace the ramp, the railings and everything else. So we had an initial price tag of $35,000, which is in the book. After meeting with Jeff DiMarzio of DiMarzio Masonry and Stevie Walsh from Walsh Contracting, W. Walsh Contracting, they believe that a repair job will be just as efficient, will take care of the issue for a long time. And that brings us down to the minimum, somewhere around the $10,000 range. The capital projects threshold. So
I like the direction this is taking.
There you go. Well,
Love it.
so that's our goal. The mayor is on board with this as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if at your next meeting or the meeting after that, you don't see two appropriation requests, one for the Briggs Pool somewhere in the $20,000 range and one for this ramp somewhere in the $10,000 range.
Councilor Holmes has a question. You have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. You know, I'm just thinking about the Disability Commission because they have access to grant money for both of these things, actually, for the pool, because it's, you said zero access and to help people that have disabilities, and then for the ramp. Have they been approached at all to see what type of grant money is available?
They have not been approached. I didn't know there was grant money available, but what has happened is, I don't know if we've hired someone or we have a company coming in and is evaluating all of our facilities. So they've been here at the Bartech Center. They've seen the ramp. This was IHCS design, I believe. They didn't mention anything about any funding available, nor did they over at the Briggs Pool area. But it's certainly something we can look into.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Cooper, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, Dennis. That the drain at the bottom, the water issue, did it get better? The water getting into the building, did it get better when the door was replaced? It looks like the door is new.
Yeah, the door is newer. Can you see that now?
I can see the small thumbnail, and I'm familiar with it, having gone in and out of there many times for different things at the Bartech Center.
Yeah, it did get better. Mainly what it did though, President Cooper, is when we put that in was it stopped the water from going inside the building.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the drain there, is that part of the work that Walsh and Jeff can do to make that problem, water penetration through the door, better?
Yes, they'll kind of try to open that up and then work with the water. Our water department actually comes by every once in a while and puts whatever they put down there to try to open it up.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Dennis.
Any other questions for the Bartech ramp? Well, then we'll move on, Dennis, to the replacing the basketball court at Ponce and Hewlett.
So again, you're starting to see this recurring theme of, I'll go back one here to.
Yeah, you and I have looked at a lot of cracked asphalt over the years.
Too much. I should note out that the city, from Mayor Dumas did some, and all the councils have approved it. We've done some pretty expansive projects in the last few years on asphalt. We redid the basketball courts in South Attleboro at what people call Lee's Pond. I call South Attleboro Vets. They've been done in the last few years, as well as Nickerson, which is down on Snell Street, has been totally redone. So, we've put a lot of money into this, but as you and I talked, Councilor Conti, I think we need to increase the maintenance budget within maintenance of rec areas in my budget, because even what we spend, we don't have enough money to do these. If we just did standard, typical general maintenance on some of these things, they wouldn't grow into the big dollar problems down the road. And I hope that's in my budget this year.
Dennis, I support that because I've been fighting for, a sizable capital improvement budget citywide for a very long time. And finally last year I started campaigning with the enterprise system to develop their own capital improvement budget. And I think that the fire department, the police department, the rec department, and the forestry department should all be thinking in the same direction of putting on a line item that would take care of preventive maintenance at least. But go on, I don't want to digress.
No, you're good. Well, we're a different department in that, as you know, we have 100 acres of property, 50 acres of it is, turf, so furret, lime seed, et cetera. But a lot of it is just what you see here, these concrete basketball courts at most of the facilities, Now, can you see this picture here?
Yes, we can.
Mm-hmm.
With Mr. Waterman in it?
Yes.
Okay. So this
Waterman
is the
looks like he's standing at ground zero.
This is the Ponce and Hewitt basketball court, which Ponce and Hewitt is now going into its 18th year, which is hard to believe for those of us who were here when we dedicated it. And we did have it resurfaced once, but we're at the point now, as I click in there, you can see that it's getting time to, it's getting almost to the point where, like Derek was talking about danger, you're almost getting concerned about people playing on them.
Mhm.
If this is this one shearing? This next one here?
And it only gets worse.
Yeah, so, and we've crack sealed these in the past, but it's just, it's getting to the point where it has to be done. And that's unfortunately a project. You can crack fill this, but you're gonna be back the next year and the next year. So a whole total redo, based on a quote from November of 19, because they don't want to come back every year because they've come back 4 years in a row. It's a November 19th of 19 quote, and I added 10% for that, for increase in any cost. So that's at 36,200.
Anyone have questions on the basketball courts? Well then, Dennis, let's move on to the crack fill and seal of the asphalt playground.
Which is kind of what I'm talking about with the trying to have a line item to kind of take care of items like this. I go to desktop. There's all pictures. I got a couple from. I'll show you one from Finberg Field here. Again, this is one that I'm going to show you that I believe so if I get it.
Even in the thumbnail, that looks like a serious crack.
I can't see it. Where you got? Oh, there it is. Okay. So as you can see here, we crack filled this back in 2014. We went out, we looked and said, geez, we might be able to save this court if we just, clean it, crack, fill it, and then seal it. But over time, as you can see, the cracks, it seeps under, it goes away, and the cracks come back. So it's the same way there. So we have a basketball court at Finberg Field like this. We have one at Horton Field like this, Walsh Field, and then another one down at Tilderby Stone, which a lot of folks at home might call Dodgeville.
So it sounds like a tar basketball court on the outdoors in Attleboro has a expected life of about 15 years.
I would say so. Yeah. So I don't think I need to show you the other basketball courts.
You don't. Just looking at more of the same.
Yep, and it obviously becomes an issue for safety of people. And so, so this aspect, this project is for where I think we can re-crack seal and be okay. We don't have to totally redo. There's another basketball court down at Conley Playground, which is just like Ponce and Hewitt. It's too far gone. I have it as an urgent that we would have to redo the court there. That one is at, I can show you pictures, but you've probably seen enough. That's $25,340.
So Dennis, it makes sense to be thinking about your asphalt courts just like vehicles. We're talking in budget and administration about a vehicle replacement plan. It sounds like maybe we should be thinking about a recreation court plan where we stagger some of the years as much as we can so that we don't have to replace them all every 15 years. But maybe we could come up with a plan where you could have a bump in your budget 1 year to do one court and a bump in your budget the next year to do another court. Does that sound logical?
It does to me.
Okay, good. So let's move on to the Twin Village Pool.
Okay. The Twin Village Pool is there's phase one, $25,000. To hire a consultant to prepare architectural plans and construction specs for a new pool, bathhouse, and filter room. That pool, like the South Attleboro pool, has been here forever. Both of the pools were built by volunteers. The South Attleboro pool by folks from South Attleboro. This pool was by folks from the Twin Village section, Hebronville and Dodgeville, back in the early 60s on both of them. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, it says here Twin Village Pool and Bathhouse. Some people will say, well, why don't we do that in South Attleboro? And I'm okay with that. I just think, a third pool. We don't need a fourth pool, but a third pool. So I would put this Twin Village / South Attleboro pool.
I don't think that's clear to me, Dennis.
Okay.
The Twin Village Pool is functional and it exists, but it needs to be repaired, correct?
It's functional.
Meets the state guidelines.
Yes, it does as far as the CME, which is the state guidelines. I'll put it to you this way. When I got here, I have a report over in the next room dated June 8th of 2001 from a company called DeLilio and Associates. They did the South Attleboro pool and they did this pool. And at that point, they said, you know, you need to fix A, B, C, and D, handicapped accessibility items and other things. Before I got here, and since I've been here, my certified pool operators and guys have kind of trudged along and kept things going. We got to the point in South Attleboro 2 years ago where we said, we just can't do it anymore. We can't maintain it. That's gone. What I'm saying is this pool, Twin Village, is very close to the same point. And so now let's say 2 years down the road, we don't have a South Attleboro pool and we don't have a Twin Village pool. What I'm saying as recreation directors, I believe that at that point, there's no need to build two pools. One pool would be fine. That up to the powers to be, you know, the mayor, city councilors, et cetera, if you'd like it to be in South Attleboro or you'd like it to be in Twin Village.
Now I understand. Thank you for making that clear.
Clear as mud, right?
Yes. Does anyone have any questions for Director Walsh on the village pool bathhouse?
I do.
There you are. Councilor Cooper, you have the floor.
So Dennis, I want to just beat a dead horse for a minute. So are you suggesting that the Tilda B. Stone pool needs to be reviewed for $25,000 and it would cost about $25,000? However, that review doesn't necessarily bind us to putting a pool at that location. We could consider a pool in South Attleboro instead, because the city really needs 3.
Yeah, half and half. This is not a review of the pool for $25,000. This is to start a plan for a new pool. This is to do the architectural drawings and et cetera for a new pool. Whether you put that in South Attleboro or Dodgeville, to me, does not matter at this point, you know?
I see. Got it.
So we don't need an evaluation right now, et cetera. We have a pretty good grip on what's going on there.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis.
Anyone else? Questions for Dennis?
I can see Sarah getting excited about a pool in South Attleboro.
Well, me too.
Well,
You know,
me three.
yeah. I'm not going to go there now. So I don't see any other questions for Dennis. Dennis, thank you for attending this evening.
Okay. You're not going over the vehicles? Just I have one vehicle?
No, we're not going to go over the vehicles. That's a whole separate plan.
All
But
right,
I do know that you'll be available if any councilor wants to take a personal visit of any of these sites. Just give them a call and out you'll go. I've been to all of them myself over the years. And I appreciate you being here this evening. Dennis, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you. So committee, that concludes the business that I have to bring before you this evening. If you have any additional business, now's the time to speak up. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I thought you were having Mr. Mark Furtado from.
Oh, that's right. I did.
And school department is on page 101.
And it's a big list. Thank you, Councilor Jackson. Jim, if we could have Mr. Furtado. Welcome, Mark. I was ready to call it a night and I forgot all about you.
Hi, Mr. Conti. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You have several projects at Hill Roberts, Hyman Fine, Thatcher, Willett, Wamsutta, and Studley. But the Studley's not in the capital improvement plan. And I want to talk about Studley first because that facade has been deteriorating for years. And we tried to get out to get repairs and weren't able to get a contractor. So we all want to know, what are we going to do?
Sure. So that project, we have funding for it. We have 43,000 and change put aside for that project that was already approved. We put that project out to bid twice. And both times got no responses. It was very unusual. The third thing we tried was to find a contractor, and where we would act as the GC, the general contractor, and find somebody who would do the vast majority of the carpentry work needed for that project. Had somebody, and then they backed out. So we've had kind of 3 relatively bad experiences trying to get somebody from the outside in to do the work. We are now at the point where we have gotten the designs simplified. Jason feels pretty confident at this point that we have a couple of contractors who are expressing a sincere interest. And we're pretty sure we're going to be able to pull this off this spring.
That's good news. So let's then move on to Hill Roberts.
I believe Mr. Cooper.
Oops, I'm sorry. We have a question from Council Cooper. Council Cooper, you have the floor.
Thank you. So, Mark, I thanks for coming tonight. This Studley facade has been something I've been riding for since Cameron was in kindergarten, and he's a freshman now. So the time is 7 years ago. So I'm happy to hear that this is going to be done. 43,000, Mark or Richard, if either one of you remember, fine. If not, but I thought that this was or maybe it was part of it was a couple of projects that were combined, but it was like 170,000. Was that for several different projects that we did were doing at the same time, and this one they weren't interested in? Because 43 doesn't sound like enough to me.
Well, we did the whole cow wall system there. That was a big, huge project.
Yeah.
But there's still a lot of water stains inside that building. I mean, walking through the building, it's just, I feel sorry for them that they got that beautiful new cow wall. And then as you walk through the school, you look up at any of the ceilings and you see these brown creases from water stains. But it all comes down to amount of money. And 43,000 is what I remember, Councilor Cooper.
Okay, thank you, Richard.
So, Councilor Waterman, you now have the floor.
Thank you. Just one quick question, Mark. When I went over there, I also saw the stains around the gymnasium. Was that considered part of this project?
No, we have a separate project on our capital list. It's not an urgent project, but to do inside repair of stains. That all of those are from, as Mr. Conti just pointed out, the cow wall being replaced and the roof being replaced.
Okay.
It's penetrations from those 2 systems prior to the repair.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions on the Studley facade? So Mark, last year we were talking about replacing original air conditioning at Hill Roberts and Hyman Fine, and the chiller and univents and tower at Thatcher, together with the tower and chiller and units at Wamsutter, all together in a lump contract. Can you tell us, has there been any progress in that regard?
Yeah, so we have finished what's called an audit of our building. So Train has come in under the auspices of a performance contract. I think they went over to the Council on Aging sort of unannounced one day and shocked those people and didn't get that work done. But they didn't give us a heads up they were going, and I apologize for that. But for our buildings, they have finished their audit. So they try to identify projects that they believe fit under the constraints of a performance contract, in the sense that the savings over the course of 15 or 20 years will pay for the capital work done for the systems. We have not gotten that report out to us yet, but their work is done. They've put the report together, I believe, and should be presenting literally sort of any day now on what they perceive as being viable projects, which we expect to include the items that you identified, except for specifically the Thatcher cooling system and the Wamsutta cooling system. So I don't know why. I haven't had the opportunity to meet with them yet. They've been working on the audit, but they intentionally and purposefully excluded Thatcher and Wamsutta for reasons that haven't been explained yet. In our semi-annual assessment of those two systems, while we're pretty sure Thatcher will, start up again with a couple of kicks, we're also pretty sure that Wamsutta will not. So that news came about 6 weeks ago. We have already costed out a replacement of what's already there. So essentially doing the same thing again. And also have looked at and are still finalizing numbers on doing a system similar to what would be on the new high school. So what's there currently is a water-based system. It takes water, circulates water through what's called a cooling tower, cools the water down, and that acts as the coolant for the building. Any system with water is, from a maintenance perspective, is a little more challenging than not. The other approach is sort of, air cooling, which is what will be installed in the new high school and is much more expensive than water cooling, but is also much more efficient than water cooling. So sort of the good news of the pandemic for these purposes are that the utilities have had a very, very hard time fulfilling their obligations in terms of funding energy efficiency projects. So they have a surplus of cash laying around with that purpose. And we are trying to construct a deal that financially makes sense. Again, because taking this approach is a much more expensive proposition than just replacing what's already there. So we still need comprehensive replacement of the air handling systems on Hill Roberts and Hyman Fine. Those buildings are sealed. Windows do not open. It's entirely mechanically controlled from an internal environment perspective. The units that are on top of the buildings are original equipment from 1974. We have gotten more than our fair share of life from them. I'm positive that's part of the performance contract proposal that we'll be seeing. Thatcher, that system is wobbling, but we're pretty sure we can get another season out of that. And again, for unexplained reasons so far, that won't be part of the performance contract presentation. And then finally, Wamsutta, which will not respond. And we're putting together a couple of different approaches and just seeing what the gap will be in the dollars to try to understand what's the best way to try to attack it.
So this is a big issue because we're talking very big buildings, very big systems.
Yes.
Very big money.
Yes. Yeah.
And the children can't do well in a sealed building in the middle of summer or near summer after April when it's going to be steamy in there if the air conditioning is not working. And in a pandemic, you have to have air circulation in order to have the kids in school.
Yes. Yeah, we're highly concerned for the late spring.
So this is an urgent problem that's got many different avenues to resolve them.
Yes.
Very complicated.
Yeah.
Does anyone have questions on the air conditioning? Yes, Councilor Dolan, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. So will we be all right this year, or because I know that the kids are going back? So will the cooling and the air circulation be satisfactory to what it needs to be?
We will be fine across the district except for Wamsutta. We've got some very profound concerns for Wamsutta, and again, we're scrambling pretty hard. Getting responses from a utility is just not an easy thing to do. So we've had a couple of whacks at it. So if we were just going to go out and buy either system, the water system or the air system, we're talking a 4 times cost difference. So the water, what's there now would cost $120,000 to replace. Putting in a state-of-the-art air cooling system would be about $400,000. Again, there's obviously no efficiency benefit by replacing what's already there. You're not doing anything better. You're doing just the same thing. The air system is a dramatic change from an efficiency perspective. So the utilities are very motivated to offset the cost of the air system. It's just a question of, can they close that gap? And right now they're not there. We're sort of 2.5 times the cost for an air system versus a water system. But we're still having discussions and still trying to get kind of a final number so that we can make a rational choice on how to repair the system.
I mean, it doesn't seem that you have a lot of time.
No, that's correct. We do not, and we're up against it as well. So it's like, it's a difficult call because, as you're pointing out, that we just don't have the time buffer to take our time and really squeeze every nickel out of the utilities. And yet the gap right now is too big to say, hey, we're going to go that way. So we're in a very painful place right now, and we're going to give it another week and see what happens.
Thank you.
Councilor Reynolds, you have the floor, then Councilor Jackson. Councilor Reynolds, you're muted.
So Mark, are you saying that if, because of the way the utilities are so far behind and they're not getting back to people, could you spend $100,000 and replace what's there and have that ready for April?
No, but certainly in May.
But by May?
Yeah.
For water.
Yeah.
So that might be the only option that's available. How long would that system last if you did that?
Well, again, the system that's on Wamsutta now is original equipment from 97. So it's, 20, 25 year thing.
So you would just be fixing it?
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe
we'd replace the whole tower with a new tower. The problem is it's plugging into an infrastructure, piping and stuff that is 25 years old. And so, again, we don't know what the implications of that would be, in season 2 when it starts blowing things up, because, and that would be a tragedy.
So basically it's $100,000 because you have no other choice.
Yes.
If we don't hear back. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Councilor Jackson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council Conti. So, hi, Mark. So,
Hi.
is it Brennan and Wamsutta that were identical twins that were built around the same time?
Yes.
And we're not having the exact same problem with Brennan as we are with Wamsutta.
We actually had a worse problem, and it's so crazy the way the timing on all this worked out. So about 6 years ago, I get a little foggy sometimes, but 6 or 7 years ago, we did replace the cooling tower at Brennan with a brand new one. In kind what we're talking about right now, and we also took the actual chiller unit. And the main component of this thing is something that looks a little bit like a 55-gallon drum that was filled with metal and then drilled holes. It looks like a strainer almost, but it's huge. And that almost collapsed. So there's a company that will reseal it, if you will. There's a coating they put on it, and they guarantee that for 10 years. He did that. So Brennan has the original chiller with a reconditioned core that has a 10-year warranty that's probably in year 5 or 6 now itself, and then a brand new tower. So Brennan actually crashed first, but not in the catastrophic way that Wamsutta did.
But we can expect something from Brennan in the next 5 years, correct?
Yes, yeah,
Similar
in
to
the near
this.
term, yeah.
Isn't that so, it's so bizarre that they were, because I do remember them being built as identical schools around the same period. And yes, like, wow, that's so amazing.
Yeah, they were built at exactly the same time. The funny part is, and the thing that we keep running into is, the contractors were not the same. So the drawings were the same, unfortunately. The drawings were not good. So we have structural problems in both buildings that are identical, and they're driven by the design. We also have problems in both buildings that were done that are attributable to poor construction, poor vendors. And two of the vendors that I believe it was Brennan, were out of business. The fellow who did the interior plumbing and welding went out of business, and I think the roofing guy went out of business. So those were not particularly successful projects, and we're looking at the consequences of that now. But yeah, they were identically done.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Sure.
So I think we've outlined that challenge pretty well. Let's move on to, I'd like to jump down to repairing the building facade at Willett, if we could. That I think Willett, how old is Willett? 20 years?
Since the rehab,
No, it's longer than that.
it might be even a little more. Yeah.
It is longer than that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So we have some water damage in the front.
Right over near the gym entrance. Very, very similar condition as Studley, that you have both water penetration and you have sort of a hydrated exhaust coming from the building that's just breaking everything down. So a very similar condition. We, again, haven't, taken a board down yet, but if the contractor that we have lined up for Studley comes through, we will jump right on Willett. Willett is not as expensive as Studley. So there's no point in us just kind of waiting around if we have somebody that actually does good work. So, we hope things work out for Studley, and then we'll just be jumping on Willett right away.
Anyone have any questions on Willett? Then we'll move on to parking lots. And I'll say the same thing to you as I just said to Dennis Walsh. It's pretty apparent that asphalt in Attleboro has about a 15-year life.
Yeah,
and we discussed this deeply last year. We talked about all kinds of alternatives, whether or not we could get some of the Chapter 90 dollars spent in doing it at the same time. And where are you on this now?
Like Dennis, a little worse than we were last year. We've had a little more.
No surprise there.
Yeah, degradation, but we have, what we feel are solid numbers. We've had. We're very, very grateful for Mike Tyler. He's worked with us closely. Has provided us all kinds of information and data, and has just been available whenever we need them. Excuse me. So, as you had explored before, we feel it is something that should be done kind of citywide and kind of bought from that perspective, because I think you will see some scaling benefits from doing that. But yeah, we're in the same boat as Dennis, and we're talking about access roads at Hyman Fine, Hill Roberts, the parking lot at Studley, which collapsed last year. So we have, fortunately, very, very fortunately, we don't have to talk about the high school anymore, which was an enormous problem, and that's all going to be gone.
So does anyone have any questions to Mr. Furtado on parking lots? Yeah, we really beat that horse dead last year. Okay, well, I think that brings us to a conclusion. I don't think I've missed anything. Yeah, it does. So if no one has any questions, Mark, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Always good to see you.
Thank you.
Committee members, I have no further business for this evening, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. All in favor, say aye. Aye. I
Aye.
declare capital improvements at exactly 8 o'clock. Thank you all.
I would like to call budget appropriations to order at 8 o'clock. As I asked the city assessor to come down and join us. I have two motions tonight, but first I would like to bring on the city assessor, Julie Hobson. All right, I see Julie on the screen. Julie, how are you? I think Julie's still muted. Councilor Cobus, would you mind just taking the minutes for me? Thank you, sir. Julie, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you all?
Good. Thank you so much for joining. I wanted to have you come down because we have the 168,000 for the fiscal 22 revaluation of real and personal property, and just kind of want to pick your brain, see if you could walk us through really what it is that you're looking for, and just kind of walk us through what that reval looks like.
Okay, so this is a contract. The reval changed from a 5-year, from a 3-year to a 5-year. And what occurs every 5 years is the Department of Revenue does a certification of value. So it's a full revaluation where the other years are interim adjustments. This is a full reval. So every property is field reviewed. It entails going out and doing full measure and list on the building permits, on the sales that occurred for the previous year. Income and expense forms are analyzed, and the capitalization rates are stabilized, as well as the income and expense over probably a 5-year period is what we're going to do. Statistical analysis of all the sales is done. Personal property accounts, there's a full field review done on those and a measure and list. This year, requirement of the Department of Revenue is that all utility accounts, which are the 504s, they all need to be analyzed, and rather than going with net book value, which used to be the standard, it now needs to be a 50-50 blend. So there needs to be more analysis done on those. So it's a lot of work. The contractor will probably, and this is my first full reval, just full disclosure, but this schedule that has been submitted is they'll probably have about 5 to 10 people out in the field between doing data entry, doing the inspections, doing the field review, and it will go from April until probably July, and then more of the statistical analysis will be done, hoping to wrap up by the end of August to have the Department of Revenue review, get our preliminary values certified, and then what needs to happen is public disclosure needs to be posted to, probably we'll do it to the website. I know in the past we've done books at the library. We'll have books available in the assessor's office. So once the public disclosure period is done, then we receive our full certification, and we can start with the tax rate setting process.
Great. Can you walk us through what that public disclosure period looks like, and what does that mean?
So basically, it means that once we get the preliminary approval from the Department of Revenue, we have to publish all of the values. So like I said, we'll probably do it on the website, and then we'll have books placed throughout the city. And basically, all of the citizens, all of the residents can come in, look up their value, and that the 5-day period allows any resident to contest their value or to question their value. And if any adjustments need to be made, those can be made before the final certification is done.
Excellent. And the 160 that's the entire price for the program of the reevaluation, including the contractor?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Councilor Conti.
So one thing that Julie mentioned partially was that the 504s, the utilities are going to be revalued in a new manner. And my personal experience is that that's going to bring a lot more revenue into the city. So the $160,000 expenses she's talking about could be easily 50% wiped away just by the growth from the utilities in the new valuation. I think that's an important thing for the councils to understand. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
No, thank you for that, Councilor
Thank
Conti,
you.
especially with your experience. You know, I often look to your advice on these subjects, so thank you. Any other question for the city assessor? All right. Julie, thanks so much. If anything comes up, I'll certainly reach out to you, but as always, thank you for coming down, and it's always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. Have a good night.
All right. From the docket of March 16th, 2021, I entertain a motion to appropriate $168,000 from account 1000-359000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 1141100-595-010 assesses revaluation to complete the fiscal 22 revaluation of real and personal property.
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Do we have any other questions, thoughts, or concerns? All right, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. From the docket of March 16th, 2021, I entertain a motion to transfer $15,751.76 to account 1660100-585075 Capron Park Zoo Sprinkler Fire Alarm Systems from the following. $12,100 from account 1124100-578380 Citywide Reserve Fund for Capital. $3,651.76 from account 1124100-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Corbis. Derek was just here. Derek Corsi was just here discussing this. I do want to thank Councilor Conti again for the courtesy shown to be able to talk about this during your committee. So I do appreciate that. This is something that is a safety issue that needs to be addressed. So we have this, and as Derek said, we'll be looking for the security system as well in the upcoming weeks. So any other questions, thoughts, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-0. Before we adjourn, just want to remind everyone, we will be meeting at 6 o'clock. I do have an update on the fleet management program we've been working on. So everyone should have received a list of the vehicles from Allison. If you haven't, let me know and we can get it out through Virginia again. That being said, I would call for an adjournment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:09.
I would like to call the Personnel, Veterans, and Human Services Committee to order at 8:09. And is Cynthia Lawrence still on? Jim, you have her?
Yep, just give me 1 second.
Thank you. We just have one person this evening. Hi, Cynthia. How are you? I think you're muted, Cynthia.
Is that better?
Yep, you're coming.
Okay.
Through. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for your patience.
Oh, no problem.
Appreciate it. I wanted to introduce Cynthia. How do you pronounce your last name?
Lawrence.
Lawrence. Okay.
Yep, you just have to forget how it's spelled.
That's right. Cynthia Lawrence is being nominated for the library trustees. And I was hoping that you could share a little bit about your interests, about yourself first, and where, and your address, and tell us a little bit about you and why you would like to be on the trustees of the library.
Well, my address is 85 Old Farm Lane, Attleboro, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
My interest is as a lifelong educator. I've seen the importance of a library for a school as a resource for students. I believe it's a crucial resource for a community, and that's why I'm interested.
Appreciate it. You're coming for this position at an interesting time. We're still fixing up the library, and we're looking towards opening up.
Right.
And
Right.
it'll be exciting when that finally happens.
Yes, I researched all the work that's been done on the library and, you know, what's happened during COVID and how you plan to move forward. And I think it's great.
So does anybody have any questions or thoughts they'd like to share regarding the library? Yes, Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you, Councilor Waterman. Cynthia, my name's Kathleen DeSimone, and having been a former member of the Library Board of Trustees, I welcome and congratulate you. I'm a huge library fan and supporter and thoroughly enjoyed my time on the board there. So I wish you good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilor Jackson.
Thank you, Council Waterman. Hi, Cynthia. Kate Jackson here.
Hi, Kate.
And we have a brand new director.
I know.
I know, and she's lovely. She is. So I hope you have a great time working alongside of her. The library does wonderful things for our community, and we're very fortunate to have such an absolutely beautiful building.
I agree.
Thank you for your volunteering.
You're welcome.
Any other hands? Anybody? Well, hopefully now the library will be dry and it will be cool when it's supposed to be cool. Thank you. And next week, the entire council will be voting. And after that, everything will probably go well. I would urge you to go down to next week after Tuesday's meeting, go down to the clerk's office and you can be sworn in.
Thank you very much. Sounds great.
Good having you this evening.
Thanks, Ty.
So from the docket of March 16th, 2021, I would entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Cynthia Lawrence, 85 Old Farm Lane, to fill an expired term on the Board of Library Trustees, term to expire February of 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? I don't hear any. So the vote passes unanimously. And we have also now, from the docket of March 16th, 2021, I would entertain a motion to transfer $28,800 of fiscal year 2021 local cultural council funds from the Massachusetts Cultural Council to the Attleboro Cultural Council and approve expending such funds in any future grant amendments. Do I have a second? Thank you. This is typical of every other year. These are the monies that we are eligible to receive and to give out in grants through our cultural council. And I'm glad to say that we're rebuilding the council. And I understand, I found out today that they had a meeting last night on Zoom. So they're ready and raring to go now. Is there any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Hear none? Unanimous. Thank you. And from the docket of March 16th, 2021, I would entertain a motion to confirm the following reappointments for the positions, terms as indicated. We have three people. Lisa Nelson to the Board of Assessors for another 3-year term expiring February 2024. Barbara Clark, I believe it's her second term, to the Council on Human Rights, again for 3 years, expiring February 2024. And Greg Withers, also second term, Council on the Substance Abuse Prevention for 3 years, February 2024.
Second.
Thank you very much. I have had a chance to talk to each of these people this week, and they're all looking forward to continuing and continuing to strengthen these boards and councils. Any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I don't hear anyone opposed, so it passes unanimously. Thank you. And finally, yes, make sure I don't miss one. Finally, from the docket of March 16th, 2021, I would entertain a motion to approve the expending of grant funds of the SHINE program received by the Council on Aging from the State Office of Elder Affairs in the amount of approximately $70,580 and approve spending of these funds and any future grant amendments.
Second.
Thank you. This again is an annual event where we approve these funds for our SHINE program. And I believe we are looking for a new SHINE director. I just found that out. Is there any concerns or questions here? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I don't hear anyone opposed. I say aye as well. So the vote passes unanimously. I would ask that we move a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much. And I would call for a vote for adjournment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 8:16. And that concludes the business of the Personnel, Veterans and Human Services Committee. I'll call for the next committee meeting at the next appropriate time. Thank you.
I'd like to call the Public Works Committee to order at 8:17. I only have 3 items of business this evening for Public Works from the docket of March 16th, 2021. I entertain a motion to transfer $7,500 from account 1124-1000-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 160-1000-524002 Recreation Maintenance of Recreation Areas for Nickerson Field Work on Courts.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Dolan. So apparently pickleball has become very popular amongst not only the young people, but seniors. It's a paddleboard, not paddleboard, I don't want to say paddleboard. Yeah, it is a paddleboard. It's a paddleboard. It's very similar to badminton and tennis. And it's become extremely popular throughout the United States. Director Walsh has come up with an idea where he's balancing off the Nickerson court where they have their roller rink, and then they will do a pickleball court over there, which sounds like a great idea. And the cost is being off balanced also. They're sharing the appropriation between the revolving fund. So it's half and half. So the revolving fund is going to pay for the $75,000 and the city will pay for the other $75,000. 7,500, excuse me, not 75,000. That sounded really bad. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. From the docket of March 16th, 2021, I entertain a motion to appropriate $1,205,803 and any other future grant amendments into Fund 3108, Chapter 90 projects for the purpose of funding Chapter 90 eligible projects as approved by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation, which is Mass DOT.
Second.
Thank you. Every year, we do get an allotment from Mass DOT, and it's approximately around the same amount of money. And that's to do anything that has to do with infrastructure. Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. From the docket of February 16th, 2021, I entertain a motion to approve application from National Grid for a new pole and anchor to service a new residential customer at 35 Lathrop Drive.
Second.
Thank you. We had a public hearing just last week. This is a new home that's being built. Obviously, they're going to need to have electricity brought to their home. We had nobody to speak in opposition, but we did have somebody here from National Grid. Is there any other questions or comments? Please, President Cooper. You're muted, sir.
That's going to be the word of the year. You're muted.
That's going to be on the front page tomorrow.
I wish I could selectively mute. No, never mind. I thought that there were 2 polls there.
Nope, there's just one.
Okay.
In fact, remember last week I even asked him about like whether it was one of those.
Big pole, gray.
Yes, that
Yeah.
ugly big one that's over
Yeah.
near the high school,
Yeah.
which just around the corner.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I have no further business this evening for Public Works. Thank you ever so kindly. I'd like to ask for an adjournment.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:22. Thank you.
Like to call the Zoning and Land Use Committee to order at 8:22. I don't have any business to call forward today, but I did want to mention to everybody on the committee that I've invited Catherine Fierick to come back on the 23rd for the committee meeting in case anybody has additional questions for the district improvement financing measure. And one of the things that in talking to her is in that I would like for her to communicate is that the money, so with the diff project, we're taking 75% of new growth for within the TOD and dedicating that to very specific projects. And one of the things that I think needs to be communicated more is that once those projects are completed, the diff ends. So it's specified for 30 years, but if the projects are completed, that project then ends, or the diff funding then ends and the money continues to go into the levy like normal. So Catherine will be back on the 23rd to mention that, to talk specifically about the projects and the estimated cost for those projects. And if anybody has additional questions, feel free to ask at that time or to send the questions ahead of time to Catherine for her to address when she comes back. With that said, I have no further business and call for an adjournment at 8:24.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned at 8:24.
License Committee has no business this evening.
I'll call Traffic and Transportation at 8:24 if I may. I have 2 items of business and just an update. I'll start with the update. The next Traffic Study Commission meeting is on Thursday, the 18th at 6 p.m. if anyone would like to join us. And I welcome Councilors Conti and Reynolds. The 2 items I'm going to move, or rather discuss this evening, are related to a piece of business from last week that was passed. You recall the sign at Augsburg and Slater, the flashing intersection sign. So because that is passed and hopefully going to be installed soon, I move to, I entertain a motion to strike the following. From the docket of January 7, 2020, to install a solar flashing sign southbound on Slater Street before Augsburg Lane. Additionally, request that the administration provide funding for the light.
Second.
Thank you. Self-explanatory questions, comments? All those in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
It's just drive, so not lane.
Drive. Yes, duly noted. Thank you. The second item is also related to the first. I entertain a motion to strike the following from the docket of November 5th, 2019. A letter from Miss Redland Zioli of Augsburg Drive about the difficulties of exiting to Slater Street.
Second.
Thank you. Comments, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. A motion passes. Does anybody have any comments or questions about anything on the docket? No? Okay, good. All right, thank you. Then I move to adjourn this meeting at 8:26.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. I'd like to call for a meeting at the next appropriate time. We adjourned at 8:26. Thank you.
I'd like to call the City Property and Claims Committee to order at 8:26. I have only one thing on the docket this evening. From the docket of March 16th, 2021, I entertain a motion to declare surplus and available for disposition the following two copiers: a Toshiba Studio 555 SE in poor condition, having made 855,263 copies with parts unavailable. A Ricoh MP3351SP, it's 11 years old, in poor condition, having made 607,503 copies with parts unavailable. Second.
Sorry, second.
Thank you. Any questions, concerns? I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but any concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any not opposed? Pete, you? Pete? Okay. So that motion passes because all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And aye. All right. That is all the business that the City Property and Claims Committee has. So I would like to call for an adjournment at 8:27.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8:27. Thank you.
Good evening. Ordinance Election and Legislative Matters Committee to order at 8:27. Myself, Councilor DeSimone, and Vice President Jackson. I have 4 motions this evening. From the docket of March 16th, 2021, I entertain a motion to call a public hearing on May 4th, 2021 for the proposed wetland protection ordinance amendments.
Second.
This is just the new business that was brought down, so just calling for the public hearing. I'll call for any comments or I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We will have a public hearing for May 4th. Thank you. From the docket of February 2nd, 2021, I entertain a motion to approve the request for the revisions of the following ordinance, sections 16-10 through 16-14 of the revised ordinance of the City of Attleboro. Delete section 16-10 water main installation and replace with the new water main and service installation.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. There were some amendments that I think some people wanted to bring forward, so I guess we can have a discussion and do the work in the committee so that will be set up for council. Does anyone have any amendments that they would like to offer or suggest? Oh, Councilor DeSimone.
Thank you, Chair Holmes. I don't know if you're referring to the ones that I had that were provided, I think, to councilors last week, specifically referencing 16 dash, well, what are we on right now? Yeah, 16 dash 9.3 as it relates to the water department. And then I offered a similar one as it relates to the wastewater department. Would you like me to discuss? They're similar. May I discuss them both at the same time?
Yes.
All right. Self-explanatory. I think I summed it up in 5 words last week. 10 years is too long a time to wait for a fee increase and review. So I thought it might be wise to ask or require the directors to report to this council every 3 years. Their determinations as to the fees in the ordinances after they have conducted a review of those fees and establishing some requirements of things that they should review and present to us, that they would make their report in a timely manner and we could more regularly assess these issues. So that's in a nutshell what those two proposals are.
Do you want to read the actual amendment and then we can get?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Sorry. Okay. So 16-9.3 fee report to the municipal council commencing in 2024 and continuing every 3 years thereafter. The superintendent of water shall report to the municipal council, 1, his or her determination as to whether the fees and charges set forth in this chapter reasonably reflect the estimated costs of providing the service and or materials for which the fee or charge is imposed. And 2, a detailed recommendation as to whether there is a need to increase or decrease any existing fee or fees, or a recommendation as to whether there is a need to increase or decrease, strike that, or existing fees or charges, forgive me, or to add or delete any particular fees or charges. Said report will be provided by November 30th in each reporting year and must include information about comparative fees and charges in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, all abutting Massachusetts municipalities, and the cities of Taunton, New Bedford, and Fall River.
Second. This makes sense to me. I feel like this would really offer a lot to the ordinance. President Cooper?
So tell me where you're adding this to this section.
Oh, well, okay. Well, 1 second, President Cooper. 16. I did review them for the best placement and 9. So 16.9.3. 1 second, sorry.
Because this section does start with 16-10.
16-10, that's why I'm confused.
Okay, well, then, yep, hang on. Sorry. That may be an error. No, I'm under Department of Water is 16-9. 16-9.1 is organization. 16-9.2 is powers and duties. And I would be adding 16, because this pertains, I felt that it pertains more to the organization, powers and duties, and fee report. So I wanted to put it ahead of everything else.
So I don't think you can do that.
Why? I'm sorry, President Cooper.
Because that was not a subject of a public hearing. Section 16-9 was not a subject of a public hearing. If you want to make that amendment somewhere within 16-10- or through 16-14, I could get behind it.
Understood.
But if you can't find a place to, and I would put it in the fees section, to be perfectly honest with you, Councilor DeSimone. So if that's where you were, which is 16-13-6. If you chose to make your amendment for that section, I think we could consider that. Otherwise, you would have to introduce that as new business and come before the council in a new public hearing, because that was not the subject of the public hearing that we had.
Understood. And I appreciate the point. I had originally intended this to be new business and then thought the better of it. Yes, thank you, President Cooper.
Well, you and I went back and forth about whether it should be new business, and I said no, because at the time I wasn't paying attention to the 16.9 till I went through and highlighted everything today, and then when you just said that, I recognized the 16.10. So that's all.
That is a fair point. To the chair and fellow committee members, do you think it would in any way impact the way it's written to move it to the fee section? Do you see any downside or conflict with that?
Well, we have two options. I think that I would like to put this in what we're doing because it does relate to it, but we can kind of regroup and introduce it next week in full council and figure out exactly where it needs to go. Because I do think it's worth trying to see if we can get it included into this instead of having another public hearing and kind of going through everything again. So I do think that I would probably be supportive of that.
So point of order, Councilor Holmes, you can't make a change to 16.9 unless you have a public hearing.
I'm saying that for next week, let's see where it can go between 16-10 and 16-14. let's see where it can fit into 16-10 and 16-14 for next week. So if it does make sense in the fee section, then maybe it should go there, but I would like to probably review all of it and figure out exactly where to embed it. What is other committee members' thoughts or anyone else's thoughts?
I think President Cooper makes a fair point. It seems to me that fees would be the best place for it. If it can't be its own place, and I'd rather save time and just get it in there. So I'm personally fine with fees, but if you would like to wait for further review, that's understandable as well.
So you want to put it in 16-13.6?
If that in no way limits it, because it also pertains to charges, but I think those are encompassed there as well. So my point in saying that is the way, if I recollect, the fees that are set forth in 13.6 are not the only fees and charges in the chapter. Do you understand? So that would be my only concern, is that it's not just the fees in 13.6, because I believe there are other charges mentioned in different subsections.
So point of order.
Yeah. Yes.
There are not, right? For water.
Yes.
For wastewater, you are correct. But for water, the fees are discussed in section 13-6 entitled fees. The department shall charge the following fees in connection with the administration of cross connection and backflow prevention, but it doesn't say anywhere else about it does $2,000. So section 10-2 is the $2,000 plus $4 per linear feet for the extension,
Right.
the service installation. Yeah, so you'd have to see where you could put that in. I don't know, maybe you're better off in section 10-9 and starting over.
Yeah, I think you should wait. Honestly, I think being a committee member, I think we should wait, another week to discuss it again. Yeah, makes more sense.
Councilor Conti?
Thank you. I'm not on the committee, but I don't think we can have 16.9 saying every 10 years and then somewhere else on the fee saying revise it every 3 years, unless you want to examine a specific fee every 3 years in addition to being examined every 10 years. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Councilor DeSimone?
Yeah, Councilor Conti, may I address Councilor Conti, Chair? It's not, it's just requesting a report, an assessment of the state of the fees, whether they don't necessarily have to be increased. So if it's a 10-year fee, if it's not to be reviewed for every 10 years, then it wouldn't be proposed to be increased in the report. Thank you.
Councilor Blair?
I think you ought to look it over, and probably the best way to do it and less confusion is to bring it in as new business. As Ms. DeSimone had suggested, maybe. Get on with this ordinance the way it is.
Councilor Kovas? Thank you.
The one thing I would suggest in order for me to be comfortable voting on this next week, and I'm supportive of the original measure as well as the amendment. I think the amendment makes a lot of sense, and I'd like to conceptually see that make it in. The one thing I would encourage you to do, if we're going to wait until next week and have it before the full council, I'd love to see section 1610 through 1614 in its entirely before us. If we can get that emailed out with the proposed amendment so that we can review that in full prior to the meeting on Tuesday, that would be helpful for me to be able to vote on it. And like I said, I am generally supportive of both measures.
Did you, Councilor Kovas, that makes sense. Did you get the motions or no? Like an email? Virginia had it.
I do, but it has the delete this, add that, and so if we could just see it in its entirely with the proposed amendment, that'd be useful.
Oh, okay, like embedded, you're saying where it's going to go.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So I'm suggesting that we vote this out without the amendment and then potentially rework it or determine next week if we can figure out if we want to do a public hearing and introduce it, or if we can find a place for it with 16-10 through 16-14. Are my committee members comfortable with that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes. Okay, from the docket of February 2nd, 2021, I entertain a motion to approve the requested revisions to the following ordinances. Delete section 16-15.6, building, sewers, and connections in its entirety, with the following.
Second.
Thank you. Counselor DeSimone, was this an amendment for that as well? Was there an amendment for that you were interested?
Yes, but I think we may have the same issue because I had written it to add to 16-15. So we may run into the same issue that President Cooper addressed a few moments ago.
Okay, okay. Any other comments or questions? Counselor Delicio?
Thank you, Chair Holmes. I would like to talk about, and obviously I'm not on the committee, I can't propose any sort of an amendment, but just food for thought for the commercial user permit 16-18.9, where we're talking about the fats, oils, and grease, where the businesses in the city are used to paying a $100 permanent, what was a lifetime permanent fee. It's now going up to the 250 renewable every other year. I would like to just see if I would like to see, and if it doesn't happen tonight, I will introduce this next week on the floor, just to add effective July 1st, 2022. So it gives a little bit more than a year for the businesses to be able to plan and absorb this fee, as a lot of these restaurants and businesses have already been through a lot this year.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, 16-18.
18.9?
0.9, okay. I feel like that's something I could definitely.
Point of order,
support.
Councilor Holmes.
Yes,
So are you doing this all as one? There's 8 motions in here. There's 8 things that we're deleting in this ordinance. Are you doing them all one at a time, or are you doing them all at once? Because if you're doing them all at once, you only read the first one.
so you would like me to read all the, delete the section of?
I don't
It's
think we
only
can do
written
it
as
any.
one motion.
Yeah, I just don't think we can do it in either that, or we have to go individually through each one as we're bopping around. There's too much change here to just do it all at once, in my opinion.
Okay, okay. So we'll talk about that, Councilor Delicio, when we get to that.
Sure.
All those in favor of bringing out the section 16-15.6, the first motion that I brought out?
Aye.
Aye. I entertain a motion to delete section 16-15.11 wastewater discharge permit application in its entirety and replace with the following.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I entertain a motion to delete section 16-15.12 wastewater discharge permit insurance process and its entirety and replace with the following.
Second.
Any comments or questions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the following, delete section 16-15.13 reporting requirements in its entirety and replace with the following.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I entertain a motion to approve the request of the following, delete or following ordinance. 5, delete section 16-15.15 its entirety and replace with the following.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I entertain a motion to approve the requested revisions of the following ordinance, delete section 16-16.2 in its entirety and replace with the following.
Second.
Comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I entertain a motion to approve the request of the following revisions to the following ordinance. Delete section 16-8.9 in its entirety and replace with the following.
Second. 18, right?
So this is where Councilor Delicio was mentioning potentially having this be a different date where it would be starting. And I do think that that would be something I would be on board with that. Any comments from my committee or the council?
I do.
President Cooper?
So I'm in support of that too, and I would be in support of doing that for the entire ordinance to give everyone involved time to make the necessary adjustments. So I wanted to say that for the previous one on the water department, but picking a date upon passage is not something I can get behind. If I can get behind any of it, but I can't support it upon passage. It's just too much of a surprise that people have not been planning for on any of these changes. So picking a time by which we're all comfortable, or a majority of the council is comfortable with making these go into effect is, I think, reasonable and prudent for both of these water and wastewater fee adjustment ordinance changes. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Councilor Delicio?
Thank you. Through the chair to President Cooper, thank you for these words. It's certainly something that I can support as well. So thank you.
Councilor Reynolds?
Geez. So I just want to say the same thing, that I think it's important that we push it off to the future, but I also like the addition of doing that. And then Councilor DeSimone's idea about doing it every 3 years, that gives everybody a chance to understand, and it's a progressive amount of increases. If that's what you're going to do, or if you're going to support certain ones, you have an option to do that. I think it kind of spreads it out. So I would be supportive of those changes as well.
Councilor DeSimone?
Yeah, I respectfully think that although perhaps immediate effectiveness may be a bit much, I would not want to put this off much longer than the 10 years. It's already been in the several months from which this issue was originally introduced. So I think it's over time. So I don't know what kind of period we're proposing here to delay this, but and I don't want to jeopardize its passing in doing that, but I think it should be implemented sooner than later. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Councilor DeSimone, did you have what did you think would be, you said that upon passage may be too soon, but are you thinking 6 months, or I'm just wondering if you have a time frame, or?
I could probably get behind 3 months, but not more than 3 months.
Okay. Councilor Blair and then Councilor Delicio.
I agree with Mr. Delicio and President Cooper that putting it off to, what did Mr. Delicio say, 2022? I think would give everybody a chance to catch up. I might be able to support these increases. I think the water department is excessive. The wastewater is more in line with my thinking. So I could possibly get behind it if it was put off to 2022. So the contractors and people get a chance to get adjusted to it. Some of these fees are too high for the common homeowner, having to replace a water line to their house or a sewer connection. If you get it out to 2022, I think it gives everybody a chance to know what's coming down the pike. And we've had a tough year this year. Everybody has. So,
I mean, I think that when it was presented to us, though, it's pretty clear that the homeowner is supplementing and paying. I honestly am most in line with Councilor DeSimone regarding this. I'm happy that we're having the discussion, but to be honest with you, 10 years and now another 2 years, like, I think we do need to, I would like to get it passed, but we have to understand that it has been a while. Councilor Dolan?
that's not our fault.
No, Counselor Dolan.
I wasn't finished there.
Thank you. I agree with you, Counselor Holmes and Counselor DeSimone. Because what was it, July 2022? So that's like well over a year. So I'd be more in line to have it implemented sooner. But obviously I'm not part of your committee, but.
One other comment, I just wanted to say that Counselor Delicio was talking about one specific section being, and that had to do with restaurants. And I think that that's a very specific area, but I think that as a whole, that the homeowners are supplement, you know, we are paying for this. So, but Counselor Delicio, sorry, I was cutting you off.
No, thank you. So yeah, so when I said 7/1/2022, it was from a budgetary standpoint of the start of the next fiscal year. So we have enough time, one, to give the restaurant owners with the fats, oils, and greases, something which I'll just say here, I'm adamantly against, always have been. But it's something that I understand the supplement that the ratepayers are taking on. But for that specific piece, I think 7/1/2022 makes sense. But I can go along with what makes sense for everything else. I just think it's important that the restaurants who've gone through so very much this over the course of this pandemic understand that, you know, we're trying to still look out for them. It's been 10 years, 100%. It's time to get going on this, and I agree with that. And thank you for that point, Chairperson Holmes, because my amendment was for specifically 16-18.9.
President Cooper.
So whatever, you know, we come up with that we deem reasonable, I could support. In terms of requirements around fees, let's not put another warm and fuzzy in the ordinance book about making them a department head send us or review fees on a whatever basis we think is appropriate. And I'll give you a perfect example if you want one. Ambulance fees. Ambulance fees are to be reviewed by this council, and I want you all to tell me when the last time it was done. Let me save you some time. It was 2014. So we can have these warm and fuzzy things if we want to, if we think it makes us, but who's keeping track of it? Who's going to keep track of it to make sure that these things happen? Now, if the fire chief thought that ambulance fee increases needed to happen, he would send them to us by April 30th. And I'm almost 100% certain now that I'm flapping my gums right now that we're going to get something by 30th around ambulance fees. I'm pretty certain of it. But let's not have a warm and fuzzy thing to say we're going to review fees because 10 years is too long. Yet we have one in the ordinance book right now today on ambulance fees that we're not worried about. And that concludes my comments.
Thank you. Anyone else who hasn't shared or any comments? Okay. So it seems like we might have a difference of when a start date would be for this. And I appreciate the discussion. I will call for a vote on that. So just bring it out of committee. All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. And then the last one, I entertain a motion to approve the requested revisions of the following ordinance, delete section 16-9.7 in its entirety and replace with the following.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Moving along, from the docket of September 22nd, 2020, I entertain a motion to insert the following as proposed. Oh, no. Forgive me, sorry, I'm on the wrong page here. I had a little sticky. From the docket of March 17th, 2020, I entertain a motion to approve the following amendments to section 10-4 of the revised ordinance of the city of Attleboro, delete in its entirety and replace with the following: 10-14.18 permanent speed humps, speed cushions.
Second.
Thank you. This has obviously been in committee for quite some time. close to a year, I'm sorry. We did have the public hearing recently, though. There were some other things that just got ahead of it. And then there were potentially some amendments that went to the city solicitor, and I did pass them out to get them to the whole council. I didn't know if anybody wanted to introduce them now or next week, or if there was any interest in what the city solicitor had said about those. Councilor DeSimone?
Yes, so I did, as you may all know, propose some amendments. It's more of a rewrite. But my reasons for doing so is that in my experience, as brief as it is as chair of the Traffic and Transportation Study, I think these speed humps, if this passes, these are going to be important. And I think there's going to be a lot of people asking for them. So what I was attempting to do was to just make it clearer as to exactly what we're talking about. I didn't the language about hump/cushion. So some of it may seem trivial in some ways, but I think it was important to establish some clarity, but more important to establish a very clear process about who does what when, because again, I think that there's going to be a lot of residents who may be looking for these, and I want them to understand how that can be achieved. So that was my intent behind the amendments that I had submitted a while ago. Actually, I think I did them in the summer and then submitted them somewhere in the fall. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds?
Sarah, you're muted.
Muted.
About 8 years ago, this came up, and there were incremental suggestions also for the traps, the grease traps, but I mean the water department stuff too. My issue with all of this is that it's a huge lump sum, no graduation, no incremental fees. It just came right out there. And in one of the worst years that we've had so far, with all the COVID things. So yes, it's been bad for the restaurants. It's been horrifying for the builders. And if anybody follows that kind of cost, they will find anywhere they look that costs for builders have just increased out of this world. So even though you might read in the paper that they're making a small fortune off of a homeowner or anything else, that's, to me, that's improper. But my issue is how much it went. You wait 10 years and then all of a sudden you slap it with this. If there was some kind of an incremental increase every year.
Excuse me,
years.
Councilor Holmes, we're talking about speed humps, right?
No. Oh, well, we got away from the water. Somehow I must have dozed off. So I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm still talking about the water piece. So slap me once, slap me twice, and I'll talk about it next week. But that's what I wanted to say anyway.
Thank you. So I know we're kind of all over the place in ordinance tonight. We had a lot to bring out. So we can bring out, Councilor DeSimone, did you want to introduce some of these, or do you want to do it next week? It's kind of lengthy. I didn't
Yes,
know.
it is lengthy, and I will defer. I mean, it might be, in some people's opinion, a bit much. But again, what I was seeking to do was to clarify anticipating requests and just wanting to have a clear process. The committee members may disagree. So if you want to review it and have that discussion at the next committee meeting, I'll leave that up to you. Some may see it as a bit much, perhaps it is. But I felt like as the mayor, and all due respect as it was submitted, that it needed a little bit of filling out for clarity's sake, process sake.
Okay, thank you. President Cooper, do you think that each line would have to be a different amendment, or what would be an approach? Because it is kind of a little bit of so much of it is kind of shifted here. I don't know if you have any feedback for me.
Well, I think you should I think each of the potential changes that Councilor DeSimone suggested, and some of them personally I liked around public hearing and the process. I think that's important to make sure that that's understood. Should be probably reviewed at the committee, sent to the council for review through Virginia, which may have been done. I know I have it. but then to be able to review what sections you are changing. There was no big
Lighted section.
public support from the or not at the public hearing. So it's completely up to you, Councilor Holmes, but I think that you have to give the changes, the discussion within the committee to make the changes before the full council. It would just be way too confusing and, maybe a stretch to whether or not those items that you're changing are drastic enough to warrant an additional public hearing. I just want to make sure that we're not going over and recrafting something or to give someone an opportunity to say that wasn't part of the discussion, right? We're having it here now, or we'll have it here at some point, and I think that that's important.
Councilor Jackson, Vice President Jackson.
Thank you, Council Holmes. Just a suggestion, maybe have an additional committee meeting before the regular meeting, whether it's next Tuesday or the following Tuesday, whichever week you decide to vote on it, but kind of get us more on board with what's going on would probably a good idea.
Okay. That's okay. I think that, so do we want to keep it in committee then, it sounds like, and determine if there's any part of this that we want to include, but if it's too much of changing the whole ordinance, we would have to do a public hearing and kind of start from square one. So those are the kind of options that it sounds like we have. Right?
Yes,
Yes,
that's what I think, that's all.
Yeah, I agree. And to be honest, I didn't fully appreciate that when I wrote this. This was months ago. So I think that's fair to have a meeting dedicated just to this, see how we can merge it without having to have a whole new hearing.
Okay. All right. So go ahead, President.
I think that's a reasonable plan in terms of getting an understanding for all on what Council DeSimone's intent was in some of these things, and getting them built into the ordinance in a committee meeting that then can be presented to the full council.
Okay. All right. So we will keep this in committee then. We all have the information, the amendments that were suggested and the city solicitor's opinion on that. And I will then call for an adjournment.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 9:03.
Thank you.
I'd like to call Public Safety Emergency Management to order, please. I've got a FYI for the council. Last week, I was assigned, we were assigned a project for the police and fire and the city to have two separate computer systems so we wouldn't face a complete shutdown. It was put into my committee and also referred to the mayor. Well, evidently, I went up and talked to the IT manager, Bill, and also the police chief and the fire chief to see exactly what was needed. And we were going to arrange a meeting to go over that. But our mayor on Friday called the two chiefs into his office along with Bill Lennox and explained to them that he was already on this and he was in favor of it. So I don't want to stop the wheels of progress, but I will hold this in committee to make sure it does get done. And I thank him for bringing it forward as fast as he did, but evidently he listened to us last week. So he come across with it real fast, and I appreciate that. So my committee members know what's going on. I by rights, I can't call them on the phone and talk to them about it. So during a committee meeting, I feel it's okay, but the mayor's completely on board with this. And he said he had been working on it for quite some time. Thank you. Call for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned. Thank you. That's a wrap, isn't it?
Special Committee on Legislative Matters, Council Rules and Procedures, and Tax Abatement Review. Anybody have anything?
Tax abatement's canceled.
Thank you.
Rules and procedures is canceled.
Thank you. Who's the
Is it
ordinance election?
legal
Oh,
for me to ask a question? I know I'm not part of the committee. But there was just a discussion about what you were going to hold off on for ordinances and what you were going to carry forward next week.
Humps, bumps, and lumps.
Speed humps is going to have a separate meeting, but are you still going forward with the other 6 or 7 ordinance changes with all the fees, right? Okay. Thank you.
Kate, did you have a comment?
yeah, I'm just double checking with Diana and Kathleen. Is that what you want to do? Is you want to hold off on? I thought you were holding off on.
Speed humps.
Yes, speed humps.
Only speed humps, yeah?
Only speed
Okay.
humps.
The other two things got, 7 or 8
Yeah.
things got
I
voted
know,
out.
but I wasn't sure, like, there were so many things going on.
Well, the effective date is what made me think that you were holding off as well, but
Gotcha. Thank
as long as I
you.
see what the amendment is so I can print it properly for next week.
And we appreciate you, Virginia. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Everyone.
Good night.